So imagine if your body issued like a biological eviction notice, right? But millions of these damaged, broken down cells just, they absolutely refuse to leave the building.
Yeah, instead of just packing up and clearing out, they actually set up camp, like inside your joints, your skin, your tissues.
Exactly. They act like these cellular zombies, slowly poisoning all the perfectly healthy cells that are just, trying to work around them. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
If you've ever wondered why your back just inexplicably aches every morning, or why your energy crashes so hard at like 2 in the afternoon, you probably just assume it's, a normal, unavoidable part of getting older.
Right, everybody just says, well, I'm aging.
Yeah. But science is pointing to something so much more specific. So today we are exploring this very real biological phenomenon, the senescent cells, these so-called zombie cells, and uncovering the emerging science of how the cure to clearing them out might actually just be like sitting right there in your grocery cart.
It's amazing. And the research we're looking at today, it really bridges this incredible gap. I mean, we're taking some of the most foundational, heavy-hitting longevity science available and walking it straight down the produce aisle of your local supermarket.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. Once you understand the mechanics behind why two people of the exact same chronological age can look, feel, and function so completely differently. I mean, it fundamentally changes how you view everyday habits.
Right, it's not just genetics.
Exactly. We are moving away from this vague concept of, aging gracefully, and we're looking at actual mechanical cellular maintenance.
Okay, so let's unpack this in the beginning, because zombie cells, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It does.
To understand why things go wrong, I think we probably need to establish what's supposed to happen when things go right. Like, what makes a cell turn into a zombie in the first place?
So, to understand the malfunction, you first have to look at the normal life cycle of your cells. Every single day, your body is managing this massive construction and demolition project.
Right.
When a normal cell gets severely damaged, say, through oxidative stress, which you can just think of as biological rust, caused by processing oxygen, toxins, wear and tear, that cell does something very polite.
Polite.
Yeah, it triggers a programmed, clean, cellular death.
Oh, so it essentially falls on its sword for the greater good of the tissue, just like getting out of the way so a fresh cell can take its place.
That is the ideal scenario, yeah. But senescent cells, they're the rebels of this system.
Okay.
They take on that heavy damage. They completely stop dividing. They stop doing their actual specialized job, whether that's being a skin cell or, a muscle cell or a neuron, but they refuse to initiate that clean death.
They just linger.
They linger. Hence
Yeah.
the zombie moniker. I mean, they are technically alive, but they're entirely dysfunctional.
I struggle to wrap my head around this part, though. Like, if my immune system is fundamentally designed to seek and destroy bad cells, why is it suddenly giving these zombie cells a free pass once I hit, my 30s or 40s? Like, what changed?
Well, that is literally the million-dollar question in longevity research right now. Because in a healthy 20-year-old, the immune system surveillance cells do catch these zombies, and they clear them out efficiently.
Right. You recover fast when you're 20.
Exactly. But as we age, a few things happen simultaneously. First, our immune system just naturally becomes a bit more sluggish. The surveillance gets sloppy.
Ah.
Second, and this is wild, these zombie cells are incredibly tricky. They actually deploy chemical cloaking mechanisms to hide from the immune system.
Wait, really?
Yeah. They essentially put up this biological do not disturb sign, allowing them to accumulate over the decades.
That is so creepy. And I mean,
Well,
if they were just taking up microscopic space, that would be one thing. But the sources highlight that they're actively malicious. Like, they just sit in your tissues and leak this toxic cocktail of inflammatory chemicals.
right. In the clinical literature, this toxic leak is known as the senescence-associated secretory phenotype, or SASP for short.
Okay, we'll definitely need an explanation of
Yeah.
that. What exactly is SASP doing to the body?
Think of SASP as a constant low-grade chemical spill. These molecules are highly inflammatory. And the crucial insight from this research is that this localized microscopic inflammation is one of the primary hidden drivers of systemic aging.
Wow.
Scientists even have a term for it now, inflammaging. And this isn't just about cosmetic issues like wrinkles, It alters your metabolism, it degrades your cartilage, it even impairs your brain function.
So if you're listening to this and dealing with creeping joint pain or like deep fatigue, This is the paradigm shift. It might not just be mechanical wear and tear from running or lifting boxes. It could literally be these senescent cells sitting in the tissue, just chemically poisoning the microscopic environment around them.
Yes, it's a chemical degradation, not just a mechanical one. And because this accumulation happens invisibly over years, most people never connect their gradual decline in comfort or energy to a cellular malfunction.
They just blame it on age.
Exactly. They just accept it as the unavoidable tax of living past 35.
But if we're just talking about a few bad cells here and there that manage to evade the immune system, why does the body seem to fail all at once? I mean, it seems like people hit a certain age and suddenly the brain fog, the joint pain, the skin dullness, they all show up to the party in the exact same year.
Well, what's fascinating here is this biological chain reaction that researchers call the bystander effect.
The bystander effect.
Yeah, because these zombie cells are constantly pumping out those toxic SSP molecules, that inflammation doesn't just stay neatly quarantined inside the bad cell.
Oh, I see.
It bleeds out into the surrounding tissue, washing over the nearby perfectly healthy cells.
Oh. There's an analogy in the sources that I think absolutely nails this visual. It's exactly like leaving a single overripe, rotting piece of fruit in a pristine fruit bowl.
Uh-huh.
You leave one bad apple in there, and it releases that ethylene gas that spoils all the perfectly fine fruit sitting right next to it.
Yes.
One struggling cell literally infects the whole neighborhood.
That visual captures the mechanism perfectly. The chemical stress from the zombie cell actually forces the neighboring healthy cells to undergo extreme stress themselves.
So they basically crack under the pressure.
Exactly. The healthy cells get overwhelmed by this toxic environment, and they are pushed into the exact same senescent zombie state. It creates this cascading avalanche of cellular dysfunction. And this bystander effect explains why aging feels like a coordinated systemic decline rather than one isolated problem. It's a shared underlying mechanism driving the sluggish digestion, the achy knees, and the fatigue all at once.
We should pause here, actually, to ground this in the institutional research,
Mhm.
because this isn't some fringe internet wellness theory.
Yeah.
If you look at who is leading the charge on this, it's the heavy hitters. You have the Mayo Clinic, who actually helped popularize the term senolytics.
And we should definitely define that term. A senolytic is simply a compound that selectively targets and helps the body clear out these senescent cells.
Got it.
And the Mayo Clinic has really been at the forefront of identifying these compounds.
Right. And then you have the Buck Institute for Research on Aging spending years mapping those exact inflammatory SSP molecules to figure out how they behave. You have Harvard-affiliated labs exploring how this chronic inflammation connects directly to cardiovascular disease.
It's massive.
It is. And the National Institute on Aging has compiled this huge body of evidence showing that when you clear these cells out in animal models, it doesn't just make them live longer, it measurably extends their healthy lifespan.
That distinction between lifespan and health span is everything. I mean, nobody just wants more years if those years are spent in pain and decline. The institutional consensus is shifting entirely toward maintaining the quality of those tissues for as long as possible.
So if the immune system's cleanup crew is slowing down, right,
Yeah.
and these zombie cells are actively converting healthy cells to the dark side, how do we intervene? If the Mayo Clinic is studying senolytics, are we waiting for some experimental prescription drug?
Wow.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. Some pharmaceutical senolytics are in trials, sure, but the sources emphasize that some of the most powerful supportive compounds are already sitting in the produce aisle.
Yeah, and we have to be clear here, a handful of berries isn't a magical overnight cure-all. But the specific plant compounds found in certain everyday foods have shown incredible senolytic potential in rigorous studies.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of this senolytic grocery cart.
Let's do it.
First up is quercetin. The sources highlight red onions, apples specifically with the skin on, and capers. Apparently, capers are one of the highest natural sources of quercetin in the world.
They punch well above their weight class nutritionally. Quercetin is heavily studied in the senescent space for its ability to modulate the immune system and support those natural clearance pathways that get sluggish as we age.
Nice. Then we have fisetin, which is heavily concentrated in strawberries. But I need you to explain the how here. Like, how does eating a bowl of strawberries actually affect a zombie cell in my knee joint?
It all comes down to interrupting survival pathways. Remember how we said these zombie cells refuse to die?
Yeah.
They do that by upregulating certain survival proteins. Fisetin essentially acts as a chemical signal that interrupts those specific proteins. It strips away the zombie cell's armor, tricking it into finally undergoing that programmed cell death it's been resisting for months.
That is wild. It literally forces the cell to hit its own self-destruct button.
Exactly. It restores the natural order that the cell was actively evading.
Okay, then the list goes on to include EGCG, which is
Hmm.
the primary compound in green tea.
Mm.
And the sources mention that not only supports cellular health, but provides this nice calm alertness. We also have curcumin, found in turmeric, which the research notes must be paired with black pepper for your body to actually absorb it.
Crucial detail, yeah.
Right. And finally, the rich polyphenols found in high-quality extra virgin olive oil.
And the recurring theme across all these compounds is that they are potent modulators of cellular stress. They shift the internal environment from one of chronic alarm to one of maintenance and repair.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though,
Go for it.
because tracking quercetin and quercetin sounds exhausting. Why can't I just buy an expensive Senolytic supplement online that has all these compounds synthesized into a capsule?
Mhm.
Like, why do I need to worry about eating the actual apple skin and throwing salty capers on my salad?
It is the most common question people have when they learn about senolytics.
Mm.
And it all comes down to a concept called the entourage effect.
The entourage effect.
Yeah, when you isolate a compound in a lab and put it in a pill, you are stripping away the complex biological delivery matrix that nature built right around it.
Oh, so the pill might not even be absorbed.
In many cases, you are just creating very expensive urine.
Oh, right.
When you eat a whole apple, the fiber in the skin doesn't just sit there. It acts as a physical delivery vehicle, carrying the quercetin safely through the harsh stomach acid so it can actually reach the lower intestine where it's absorbed into the bloodstream.
Wow, okay.
The whole food provides hydration, it provides prebiotics for your gut microbiome, and essential enzymatic cofactors. The body is designed to process the symphony of the whole food, not just a solo instrument isolated in a gelatin capsule.
That completely changes how you look at a piece of fruit. I mean, it's
Mhm.
basically a localized drug delivery system.
Exactly.
But building on that, we have to talk about the villains, the habits that are actively accelerating this zombie cell buildup. Because the sources point out that adding strawberries to a terrible diet won't save you. Ultra-processed foods, deep-fried foods, and added sugars are obvious culprits. But two lifestyle habits really jumped out at me. The first was relying on frequent sugary coffee drinks as an afternoon energy crutch.
Ooh, the danger there is the roller coaster of blood sugar. When you spike your glucose with a heavy sugary drink and then you crash 2 hours later, you are generating massive amounts of oxidative stress.
Right.
You're pouring fuel on the systemic inflammation fire, and usually right at the moment when your work stress hormones are already peaking.
It's a perfect storm. And the second major villain was eating heavy meals late at night. Why is the timing of the meal so detrimental to cellular cleanup?
Well, we have to introduce a crucial biological process here called autophagy.
Okay, autophagy.
Autophagy is essentially your body's overnight cellular recycling program. When you are fasting overnight, your body sends out a cleanup crew to consume damaged cell parts, clear out metabolic waste, and just sweep up the debris. But digestion is incredibly energy intensive.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. If you eat a heavy meal at 9 p.m., your body has to divert all its resources to digesting that food.
You are essentially pulling the recycling crew off duty to go deal with a massive late-night delivery.
Exactly. You shut down autophagy. The body prioritizes processing the new calories over cleaning up the old damage, which allows the senescent burden to just grow unchecked.
So knowing the mechanics of the food and the timing is one thing, but how does this actually play out in a normal human life? The sources provide some brilliant case studies that ground this in reality. Let's look at Michael, who is 38.
Yeah.
He was working incredibly long hours, dealing with constant exhaustion, and he was waking up with aching joints. He assumed, like most of us, that he was just hitting middle age.
And Michael represents the exact demographic where senescent cell burden starts to become really visible. His immune clearance was slowing down and his stress levels were accelerating the cellular damage.
Right. So he learned about Senolytics and made some highly targeted shifts. He started adding berries and green tea to his morning routine. He incorporated red onions into his dinners. And crucially, he started taking evening walks instead of just collapsing on the couch to scroll on his phone.
All great changes.
But what I found most interesting was the timeline. Because the sources note he didn't feel anything for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, because we are so conditioned to expect the immediate jolt of a stimulant. If you drink an espresso, you feel it in 20 minutes. But dietary senolytics are about fundamental cellular turnover. It is a slow structural repair
He
process.
was literally rebuilding the neighborhood.
He was. And it took over a month for him to notice that his energy wasn't crashing at 2 p.m. anymore and that the morning stiffness had dialed way back. His systemic inflammation had slowly lowered to a manageable threshold.
Amazing. Then we have Jennifer, who was 44. Her symptoms were slightly different. She was battling brain fog, dull skin, and super frustrating digestion issues. For years, she had been trying to tackle them as three separate problems with different creams and diets. But when she shifted her focus to her entire cellular environment, things changed. She added fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut specifically for gut health, swapped her afternoon processed snacks for strawberries, and committed to a strict, consistent bedtime.
Jennifer's outcome really highlights the interconnectedness of human biology. Her digestion improved first. The gut microbiome is a massive regulator of immune function and systemic inflammation.
Wow.
Once her gut inflammation cooled down, the bystander effect in her other tissues started to reverse. Her skin cleared up, her cognitive fog lifted. She treated the root chemical environment rather than just chasing cosmetic symptoms.
And her focus on a consistent bedtime is a perfect pivot to the final major lever in this equation. The sources make it abundantly clear that diet is only half the battle. Stress and sleep are the silent architects of how well your body clears out the trash.
Huge factors.
Let's dig into cortisol, our primary stress hormone. How does chronic stress actually impact those immune surveillance cells we talked about earlier?
This is where the biology gets truly humbling. When you are chronically stressed, worried about deadlines, finances, emails, your body keeps cortisol elevated constantly. And elevated cortisol literally disrupts the chemical communication signals in your immune system.
Okay.
If your immune system surveillance cells are the security guards looking for zombie cells, cortisol acts like static on their radios.
Oh, it blinds the security system.
It creates total signal failure. Your body stops identifying and clearing the damaged cells effectively because the ancient survival mechanism of stress is overriding the long-term maintenance systems.
You could be eating bowls of capers and strawberries, perfectly optimizing your fisetin and quercetin intake, but if you are chronically stressed out of your mind, you're undermining the very process you're trying to support.
Yeah. The diet provides the tools, but chronic stress fires the workers.
Man, that's a great way to put it. And the sleep aspect is equally vital. The research specifically highlights sleep timing, not just getting a full 8 hours. Why does going to bed at 11 p.m. on Tuesday and 1 a.m. on Wednesday disrupt cellular cleanup?
Well, our bodies run on deeply ingrained circadian rhythms. Our cells rely on consistent timing to know exactly when to shift from daytime energy production to nighttime repair mode. When you're erratic with your sleep schedule, you confuse those cellular clocks.
Right.
Consistency is what triggers the deepest, most restorative phases of sleep where processes like autophagy are fully activated.
So what does this all mean when we step back and look at the whole picture? I mean, it means that eating colorful plants, protecting your sleep schedule, and going for a walk to lower your stress aren't just generic, feel-good pieces of advice you'd find on some wellness poster.
No, not at all.
They are targeted mechanical interventions. You are giving your cells the exact chemical codes they need to sweep out the biological trash.
And that is the most empowering takeaway from all of this data. Managing your cellular health isn't about aiming for some impossible standard of perfection.
Right. It's not about being flawless.
Exactly. It's not about never eating a late-night meal again or banishing all stress forever. It is about frequency and consistency over time.
It's the compounding interest of small biological choices. If you are listening to this in your 20s or 30s, applying this knowledge now gives you a massive head start on maintaining the integrity of your tissues.
It changes the narrative entirely. It gives us a tangible, measurable reason for why our bodies change, moving the conversation away from dreading getting older into practicing active cellular self-care.
I love that framing. It demystifies the aches and the fatigue. We started this deep dive exploring the expectation of simple mechanics in our grocery carts. You know, calories in, energy out.
Right.
But it turns out the mechanics are incredibly complex, driven by cellular communication, completely invisible to the naked eye until they suddenly manifest as the aches and pains of aging.
It really is the hidden foundation of how we physically experience the passage of time.
It is. But I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over today, building on what we just discussed about stress.
Oh, I'm ready.
We know that elevated cortisol acts like static on your body's communication lines, actively blinding your immune system and preventing it from clearing out these aging zombie cells. So if our daily thoughts and habits are constantly communicating with our biology, is the chronic modern stress of constantly worrying about aging, obsessing over every wrinkle and every superfood, actually spiking the very cortisol that accelerates the cellular aging process we are trying so desperately to prevent. Are we stressing ourselves into the exact state we fear most?
Wow, that is a brilliant, necessary coffin. Sometimes the most potent anti-aging mechanism is simply finding a way to relax.
Something to think about the next time you find yourself stressing out in the grocery store aisle. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep exploring the incredible mechanics of your own biology, and we'll catch you next time.